Well, hello again, young man.
Hi, Dad. Should I say old man?
Yeah, you could do that. You could say, hi, old man, and you'd be right. Well, we're
Only as old as you
meeting.
feel, right?
Is that right?
Don't we just kind of feel mentally like 25? Isn't that sort of the universal?
Well, I've said this many times, and you've heard me say it. I wish I could remember who originally told me this, but they said I'm at that age where what doesn't hurt doesn't work.
Yeah. Huh.
And that's where I am.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so any interesting viewing to pass along?
Nothing really new. Still watching Severance.
Yeah, I got to get back into that.
Yeah. It's been good. It's one of those things where there's little Easter eggs and mysteries and stuff in every episode. That's just really fun to analyze and kind of deep dive. They're good at kind of having, they've created the big iceberg of the whole story and just revealing the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty good with that. But
you feel like you're making progress in the story that they're presenting?
Yeah, I feel. Yeah, it's a good. I feel like the pace is good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the only thing that couple things is we watched the season finale of the All Creatures Great and Small, the new one, cool. That newer series. Mm-hmm. Seems like a lot of these shows, these masterpiece shows, they always end the season, and maybe it's because of their air dates, but they always seem to end the seasons with a Christmas episode.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
these guys do it. Downton Abbey did it. There was always a Christmas episode,
like British thing that they kind of.
It must be
Christmas episode.
Yeah, it must be. The only other thing is I'm not going to go into all the details, but I was hearing a podcast interview with someone, and they were talking about this guy's new sitcom, and he was saying, it sounded like it could be kind of good. I took a look at the first episode, and but it wasn't. I mean, it was kind of funny, but the thing I don't like about sitcoms, and one of the couple of reasons I don't watch them, every single line that somebody speaks has to be funny.
Oh yeah, It's a little weird.
Most sitcoms shoot for the lowest common denominator of humor.
Yeah.
And this one didn't quite do that. But the thing that bugged me the most, and I kept thinking about it because this guy said, well, we film in front of an audience. But I'm watching this, and I will swear to you, that was canned laughter.
They probably film in front of an audience, but they probably still have to add on a bunch of canned laughter.
It's either that or when they get to a certain part, something lights up and says, laugh now.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Well, even like Seinfeld, which I really love Seinfeld, and I think, as a sitcom, I feel like the humor in that works really well. And that's like, a lot of it is in front of a live studio audience, and it feels like it for a lot of it. But then, whenever they cut to doing something outside, you still have the laugh track. And
right.
It's like, well, obviously they're adding that on after the fact.
Right. So if the audience, if the audience didn't laugh enough, let's add some to it.
Yeah.
And if
it would be weird though if it went from inside, then there's all the laughter, and then you cut to outside and there's no laughter. So they have no option but to add it in.
And everything I saw about this particular program, every review started out with the words "lose the laugh track."
Yeah,
I hate laugh track
thing at this point.
If it's funny, I'll laugh at it. If it's not, well, just keep going.
Yeah.
There was one program. Now, you probably don't know this because, you're just such a young feller.
Mhm.
When MASH first went on the air, they had a laugh track.
Uh-huh.
And after a while, they dropped it.
They
And
did?
they dumped the laugh track, and the actors just delivered the lines, and it worked. It actually worked better because if you've got two people in a room talking, let's say you and I were talking and I said something funny, we wouldn't pause
You
to
wouldn't
wait
pause.
for the audience
Exactly.
reaction. We
Yeah.
would keep the conversation going. And that's what they did. And the conversation felt more natural.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting to have a show. I didn't know that, but it's interesting to have a show that would drop it partway through because that's a total change in kind of a vibe.
It really is.
And I've seen things where, like, Friends is a show that was filmed in front of a live studio audience, and I feel like you can hear it. You can tell that laughter is like a live audience for a lot of that laughter. But they would really. I mean, from what I understand, they would work the jokes. You know what I mean? I think that I think they would do a rehearsal, and if it didn't quite get the laugh that they needed, they would tweak it so that when it came time to film, they were, would really get like the reaction from the audience, and they really tried to like make the humor work.
Right.
But then I've seen things on YouTube where people will take an episode of Friends and they'll edit out the laugh track, and they'll just show how awkward those conversations are because it's just someone, there's just this like weird pause and no laughter, and it's just kind of, it makes all the conversations really unnatural and awkward.
Very unnatural. Yeah. But I really don't like that. I just don't care for, in general, don't care for sitcoms because you could probably count on the fingers of one hand how many really good ones there have been. Some that are smart.
Yeah, well, there's definitely I don't know. I get frustrated at the type of sitcoms that have been running so long, and it's like you said, like lowest common denominator. The jokes are so lame, and the whole premise is just like, and yet like they're on their 12th or 14th season or something. Like, and then you'll have something like Community or something where the humor is like so much better, and then they just struggle season after season to keep it going.
And I find that on a lot of, well, maybe it's because I've watched too much TV over the past so many years that, good heavens, I can see the jokes coming, and I'll sit and watch a show and I'll say the joke, and then the character on TV says it. And then, so there's no, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like you rarely run across sort of sitcom writing that surprises you. Well, yeah, like a show like Community. I don't know if you've seen much Community. It's weird to call it a sitcom, but I guess it is a sitcom. But it feels very like most of the humor in Community is very much, it was like way sort of elevated higher than just kind of your normal like primetime sitcom kind of thing. But I was going to ask how you feel about laugh tracks in cartoons, because the Flintstones was like notorious for having a laugh track. And even as a kid, I thought, this is weird. Like, there's obviously no audience watching these animated characters.
Are you sure?
Well, and Scooby-Doo did it. As an adult, I look back and I was like, oh, get rid of it. Like, I wish we could just erase the laugh track from. I bought the Scooby-Doo Blu-ray set, and just kind of for nostalgia, and started watching it, and I just hated the laugh track so much. It was like ruining it. And I kind of went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out, is there some sort of AI tool that can just isolate the laughter sound and delete it from I really, really wish somebody would do that and just erase all the laughter out of the Scooby-Doo and just let me have it without the dumb laughter.
Well, I know you use that product VidAngel, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell it to drop the laughter?
Oh, I wish you could. Maybe that'll be like Yeah, maybe in the next 5 years they'll be able to.
Well, get on to their tech support and tell them we want the ability to drop the laugh track.
Yeah, because they can just. I mean, I could see that being something that could be done at some point, especially with, I don't know, all the technology now of being able to like isolate voices from songs and isolate individual instruments and all that stuff. If that kind of technology evolves, I don't know, I could see having the ability to do that, to just extract out.
I will admit, in this one show that I was watching with the laugh track, I took the file and I dropped it into an audio processor. Now, some programs it'll come up and in your audio processor, it'll have 5 or 6 tracks. One's the music, one's, I thought, I wonder if the laugh track is separated from the main track. No. Otherwise, I would have turned off the laugh track and remixed it.
Right. I notice, I feel like you're avoiding saying what the show was.
Yeah, because it doesn't really matter. Some people might like it a lot, but I'll tell you later.
I see. Got it. All right.
Well, speaking of shows, shall we get into this one that we're supposed to be reviewing?
Yeah. Let's talk about Timeless Episode 7.
All right. Episode 7 is called Stranded. Well, first of all, I have to admit I was wrong. I could swear that in the first episode, I heard someone pronounce that girl's name as Jaya. But now we find out in episode 7 that it's Gia.
Yeah, and I didn't catch that either. And I feel it's weird. We're episode 7 and I didn't even notice it until you mentioned it. Even watching this episode, it didn't click. I've been saying Jaya the whole time.
Well, now we stand corrected. All right, the episode starts with Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus being chased through the woods by French soldiers. It's September the 15th, 1754. They're captured by the soldiers. One of the soldiers is playing around with Wyatt's gun, and Lucy tells Wyatt how to say something insulting in French. Wyatt and the soldier get into a fight, and Wyatt shoots him. They take off. Wyatt throws the recording device that Rufus has. He throws it into the water. And Lucy's trying to figure out why Flynn has traveled there.
When they get back to their time machine, a couple of Flynn's men are there putting C4 explosives on it. Wyatt shoots one of them, but the other manages to shoot the C4 and damage the time machine. They chase him to Flynn's machine, but it takes off, leaving them stranded in 1754. While Rufus tries to repair the ship, they think it's possible Flynn's plan was to trap them in the past. Rufus explains what he needs to attempt to repair the time machine, so they decide to go to the fort where the French are to get Rufus the supplies that he needs.
But Rufus remembers there's a protocol in place to get a message to Mason Industries. He writes a note, puts it in a canister, and they bury it. In the present, a limo pulls up to Mason Aviation. Connor gets out and takes a phone call. It's Ben Cahill from Rittenhouse. Mason questions him about the hiring of Lucy for the project. Agent Christopher asks Connor about the phone call. On their way to the fort, Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus are captured by Shawnee Indians, and they're tied to posts.
In the present, we see Mason's people digging up a yard in a residential neighborhood. Back in 1754, while tied up, Rufus mentions his love of chocodiles and how much he likes Gia. Lucy talks about her mother reading biographies to her and how much she wants to read them to her kids. Wyatt talks about how Jessica wanted a boy and he always said there was time for that later. Wyatt and Lucy make amends and the Shawnee chief comes in. It's a woman and she speaks English. She is going to have Lucy and Wyatt killed, but not Rufus because she thinks he's a slave. Rufus pleads for her to let them all go, and she agrees.
In the present day, they dig up the canister with Rufus's message, but it's cracked and the note inside has deteriorated. Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus go to the fort. Lucy tells a soldier that Wyatt was injured and can't speak. Rufus goes looking for supplies to fix the time machine. At Mason Industries, they manage to recover 2 words from the message: death and millennium. Lucy and Wyatt are confronted by the fort surgeon. He wants to treat Wyatt's injury by bloodletting after injecting mercury in his rectum. Wyatt knocks him out, and they all escape from the fort.
Back at the time machine, Rufus makes repairs, and they manage to take off with a group of French soldiers watching them disappear. Gia figures out what the words on the message mean and says she might be able to catch them in transit and guide the machine back. So she is told the machine is in transit. She does catch them and bring them back. Rufus changes back into regular clothes, and Gia kisses him. Agent Christopher gives a paper to the other guy from Homeland Security authorizing surveillance on Connor Mason because she suspects he is hiding something.
Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus are together at a bar. Rufus is reading an article that talks about French soldiers seeing their time machine disappear. It's the first documented sighting of a UFO. Lucy gives Rufus a whole box of chocodiles. They discuss the metaphysics of Lucy writing that journal and roll credits. Next episode, Space Race.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you had some thoughts on this one, I think.
I do. Rufus told Wyatt, you remember back in episode 1, that you can't go back to a time where you already exist. But I was just kind of wondering, can you go back to a time that you previously visited? What?
I think that was I feel like that was kind of in the context of what they were saying, because I can't remember exactly, but it was kind of like, well, why can't we just go back and try again? And it was,
okay.
Yeah, there was something about like, no, because you were already there, you can't exist there twice or something.
And then something that I've been saying all along was Connor Mason on the phone with that Cahill from Rittenhouse, and he was asking, why was Lucy selected for this project? Mason's having some questions about all that as well, because he says same thing we've said. How many good historians are there, and why Lucy?
Right. And we know, the Rittenhouse guy obviously has that's her father, so he's got some sort of personal connection, but it feels like there's probably something else. There's something else why she's integral to this situation. I don't know.
Okay. We'll just have to see, won't we?
Yeah.
And we find out Lucy speaks French. Okay.
Yeah.
That was never mentioned earlier, right?
No, you just
didn't you? And then that part where G is talking to Connor Mason and talking about her relationship with Rufus, and she brings up the old Star Trek versus Star Wars business.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that. Uh-huh.
Can't you like both of them? Why do? And I know there's people out there who are rabid about one or rabid about the other, but aren't they both good?
I guess. I mean, I did. There was a moment when she was. Well, first of all, that conversation. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm being too cynical. I just kind of didn't buy it. I was like, really? But I don't know. I guess they're both kind of nerdy, techie people.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I think she was into
she was Star Trek. Yeah,
and he was Star Wars. Which
right.
I guess that fits. But there was a moment when she mentioned getting a Tribble at Comic-Con.
Yes.
For a second, I thought she said a treble, and I was like, treble? Oh, come on. You're not like a real Trekkie if you said treble. Anyway, I went back and replayed it a couple times. I was like, no, she said tribble, I guess. Okay,
she said tribble.
She passes, but for a second, I thought she said treble and didn't know what the heck she was talking about.
I had one kind of thought here when Lucy and Wyatt were arguing about saving Amy or saving Jessica, I thought, well, now, wait a minute. We've got two different circumstances here. Of course, I know time travel, if done right, could probably fix them both, but Jessica was killed before any of the time travel stuff happened.
Yeah.
Amy, on the other hand, wasn't killed. She was erased from existence because of time travel.
Yeah.
Now,
it's pretty different.
Is it possible that either Rittenhouse or Flynn had something to do with the murder of Wyatt's wife?
I could see that.
Since it happened before all of this.
Yeah. I could see them tying that in later, that's like a what sort of a surprise that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought.
And I wondered, what was Gia doing on her laptop when Connor walked in on her? Because she closed it really fast, like she was hiding something.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
There was no sort of hint of what she was up to?
Nah, nothing. Maybe it's just, maybe I was just reading something into it that isn't there. But
yeah,
one question I had, they came back. No one asked Rufus about the recording device. It wasn't even mentioned.
That's true. And he did get rid of it. Or
because
Wyatt got rid of it.
Because every other time Connor pulls Rufus aside and says, okay, let's have the device. Let's have the recording. But nobody talked about it.
Interesting. We'll have to see if that comes up again.
Yeah.
It's got to at some point.
Those are the only notes that I had.
So I thought the Chocodiles thing I thought was kind of funny. Just kind of what a random thing to be, you're kind of like thinking you're about to die and you're saying, oh, I wish, what I really miss. I miss this, and like that Chocodiles was his thing, which it was a little odd because that's such an old, Chocodiles, like the branded Chocodiles haven't existed for a really long time.
I haven't seen Chocodiles in years.
Well, and then what she, at the end, I thought it was kind of cool that she got him, gave him a box of Chocodiles. But I mean, they weren't called Chocodiles. It was, chocolate covered Twinkies.
Yeah.
Which that's what they eventually became. Like they were, I think in the 80s or whenever, they were branded Chocodiles. And then they went away. And then I think they came back later as chocolate covered Twinkies.
Right.
But,
right.
Man, it really makes me want some Chocodiles right now.
Maybe you can get some Chocodiles on eBay.
That's what we should do. And how old would they be? And they would probably be just as fresh as when they were new.
Yeah, because they're still sealed up.
Yeah.
And everyone's individually wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
So
that's what we should have had on this episode was a box of chocolate covered Twinkies to eat.
Yeah, that would be good.
I thought the Millennium Falcon, I don't know, that was kind of a clever idea, I guess, to, as far as like, getting Gia and Rufus, kind of about their relationship. This, that she figured out. Oh, his message meant it wasn't, death and Millennium. He was talking about the Death Star and the Millennium Falcon. I did feel like, wow, that was like really a stretch to figure that message out just based on those two words.
Okay, if you're right,
if you're in Rufus's place, why would you do some sort of cryptic thing like that? You would spell it out as the most clear, obvious English that you could. So there's no but I'm gonna make a riddle. Think of the scene in Star Wars. What do you do?
I would write like, we're abandoned here. I'm going to try to fix the machine. When we're in transit, see if you can grab it and bring us home.
Yeah,
I wouldn't include any references to the Death Star or Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, but it was kind of like a fun little thing that they, kind of bonded for their relationship and stuff. This episode definitely. I keep bumping my mic. I hope it's not like rumbling. This episode was one. I keep thinking of a lot of these episodes that they feel like side quests. You know what I mean? You've got the overarching story, and then some of these episodes feel like distractions. This one was definitely one of those because Flynn is not a part of the story at all, other than he, leaves that they're just kind of stuck back here, and
Right.
they don't encounter him in the story other than
Yeah, I think he was trying
beginning.
to abandon them.
Right. I liked the moment when the time machine disappears in front of the French soldiers, and they are kind of like, oh, and have that like UFO thing was pretty funny. I did the okay, and Rufus has to put together he has to build he has to do a makeshift capacitor to fix the part in the ship, and I was just like, well, I mean, and they did a funny reference to a flux capacitor. No, not a flux capacitor, like a regular capacitor.
Right.
But the way that he just was able to walk into the fort and get a tin thing and like pound it out and, get some metal and then get the bottles and kind of, I'm just like, are you serious? You think that like, it was so hard for me to buy that.
It was too easy.
It's too easy. And I'm just like, there's no way that like what you just put together is precise enough to actually replace the capacitor on the circuit board that you're needing to fix. And then I just was like, Rufus, when they tried to start up the time machine at the end before they finally get away.
Yeah, they had the hot wire.
It starts, and then he goes and twists the wires together. I'm like, oh my gosh, Rufus, you had just those loose wires. Not even like I don't trust this guy as a pilot. So I don't know.
Now, but you got to remember, back when they were in Germany, he did hot wire a car. So
that's true. I guess that's
so
kind of funny,
he should.
Then he hot wires the time machine.
Yeah, he should be able to hot wire a time machine. Come on.
Yeah. So I don't know. And honestly, him kind of having to hodgepodge something together and hot wire it kind of in a way made the time machine feel a little bit like the Millennium Falcon, because the Millennium Falcon was really, kind of this hunk of junk that you kind of hot wire stuff. And so I don't know, that just occurred to me that was kind of a cool parallel they made with, because it is kind of like the junkier time machine. It really is kind of the Millennium Falcon of time machines.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But
anyway.
It was a lot like the in Back to the Future 3 when Doc Brown has to, fashion his own circuits and components out of 1885 stuff, and ends up making this big circuit board thing, that mounts on the hood of the DeLorean. This was like very much similar to that, where Rufus has to, make these giant components.
Here's another example. This is a Star Trek example. The one Star Trek episode with the Guardian, and they go back in time. You might have seen it, you might not have, but it's worth watching anyway. But they go back in time, and Spock has to put together a circuit board with essentially 1930s, anyway, with technology from the 30s. He's got to build this big circuit board so that he can get information off of his tricorder. So it's kind of the same thing. You cobble something together out of what you have.
Yeah. I see, but I believe Spock could do that.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rufus is smart, but he's not Spock smart.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I guess we're glad they got away. Yes.
Well, have you got a rating for this one? What are you going to give it?
It felt so much like a side quest. I don't know.
Like a filler.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like
there were little bits and pieces of things that helped us story-wise, but not a lot of the big story.
Yeah. I don't know. It just was kind of like a 6 for me, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking between 5 and 6.
Okay.
So it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Whatever. It started different.
Yeah.
We had no idea what was going on at the beginning. And I'm thankful there's one thing they did not do, because this bugs me, and I've mentioned it before, I think. you start out with a scene like that. They're being chased and they're running away. La, 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 la. And then all of a sudden the screen goes 3 days earlier. I hate that.
That's such a cliche thing anymore. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm glad they just went on with the story and didn't try and fill in what happened previously.
Yeah. Yep. That has become, there was a point when that was kind of a new novel thing to do, but it's been kind of overdone at this point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I am excited about the next one though. Episode 8, Space Race. I think that one could be.
That one could be good.
I'm kind of looking forward to that one. Yeah.
Yep. I think so. Well, I guess we will get together again next time and go to the space race.
Okay. See you then.
See ya. That wraps up this episode. Join us again next time here in the TV Lounge.